to another story here now. Justice Tunoi finds himself in a raging battle over his career. Will he survive the onslaught? Well, that's a question that we seek to answer when we spoke to Eric Mutua of the Law Society of Kenya. This comes as questions are raised over whether or not the president is justified to suspend the formation of a tribunal to investigate claims that he received a bribe.
What is LSK's position on the president's refusal to set up a tribunal?
As far as the interpretation of Article 168(5) is concerned, once the Judicial Service Commission forwards a petition to the president indicating that in their estimation they believe that it raises reasonable grounds to warrant the president constitute a tribunal, then the president has no other role, he has no other responsibility, he has no other jurisdiction other than to constitute the tribunal, which now will be able to sit, receive evidence from all the parties concerned, hear the witnesses, look at all the documentary evidence, and thereafter make a determination whether or not there is adequate grounds to have the judge removed as a judge. In our view, the letter by Kinyua to the effect that the president is relying on some ongoing proceedings in the Court of Appeal is erroneous and is either a deliberate misinterpretation of the law or a genuine misinterpretation of the law, because the argument has been that since the High Court made a determination that the retirement age is 70 years, then as far as that determination is concerned, the Honorable Justice Tunoi is no longer a judge. What they are not telling the public is that in terms of the proceedings at the Court of Appeal, there is already a stay of the decision by the High Court. Once there's a stay of the decision by the High Court, then the status quo would be that the judge continues being a judge of the Supreme Court, and therefore the Judicial Service Commission and the tribunal which is to be constituted has jurisdiction over that kind of a judge. It is therefore, if the president maintains and refuses completely to appoint a tribunal, then it's a version of the Constitution. It is a violation, a gross one, a violation of the Constitution. Yes.
Is the LSK concerned that the president is defying the JSC for the second time round?
Yes, the Law Society of Kenya is very concerned of this latest move by the president to decline to appoint a tribunal as recommended by the Judicial Service Commission, because we are looking at the consequences. What are the consequences of that kind of a failure? You create what one can say is a constitutional crisis, because I've said this and I want to repeat it, that if there is no tribunal constituted by the end of today, the consequences are so grave in that any other tribunal which is to be formed after today, it will be subject to a challenge in court because it will have been constituted outside a constitutional framework. And once that happens, then chances are that that kind of a body will be declared as illegal and unconstitutional. Yes.
In your opinion, do you believe that the president is getting sound advice with regards to the law, given
I don't want
the AG sits on the JSC?
Well, there are two things which could be happening. One of them is that either the president is not receiving the right kind of advice, legal advice, or probably is receiving sound advice and ignoring that sound advice. It's okay, you can go in. Is either, there are two things which could be happening. One is either that is receiving the wrong legal advice, or is receiving the right legal advice but ignoring that advice. Yes. If you look at what has been happening in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, he has gone to court and questioned the decision by the Judicial Service Commission to ask him to retire at 70. And the High Court has agreed with the Judicial Service Commission and indicated that the retirement age should be 70. However, as I've pointed out, when he went to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal granted a stay, which means that he still remains a judge. Yes.
As we both know, today is the deadline for the setup of the tribunal. What next? What do we expect after this?
It's one of those situations where you can't have a definite answer to the question, because even if one decided to go to court now for purposes of seeking whatever orders you would seek in court, whatever orders you get will be overtaken by events, because there is no way you can get an order to force the president to constitute a tribunal. Even if you got a declaration that his actions were unconstitutional, still you have not cured the mischief. And this is the mischief, is that once the tribunal is not constituted, then it means therefore that the Honorable Justice Tunoi will never face a tribunal at all. Yes. Even if the Judicial Service Commission was to sit another time and forward the same petition to the president, chances are that one would still make an argument out of it that this is the same petition which was forwarded and it was not, a tribunal was not formed within the specified period. Yes. The only viable remedy which is available is basically to ask the other organs of the state, including Parliament, for the National Assembly probably to sit on the matter, make a determination that indeed there was a violation of the Constitution, and the consequences would be an impeachment. And that is why we have said that is the only viable option. But remember, we know realistically that that may not happen because of the composition of members of Parliament. Yes.